Thank you, John and Helen. On the 20th of October 2020, the NSAS peaceful protest ended with the Lekki massacre. We've been talking about NSAS this morning. Everybody has been talking about NSAS. It seems completely talked out. However, it isn't, because we lost loved ones. We lost a part of our soul. The heart of Nigerians, both young and old, was broken. A year on, the panel confirmed that the Lekki massacre did happen. For me, it's not about laying blame. It's not about trying to rationalize. It's not about any of those things. It's about the way forward. Because as hard as this is to hear, what has happened. We now need to figure out how to continue to push through. We need to figure out how to move past the pain, the anger, the brokenness. And like our guest earlier had talked about, we need to find a way to be able to forgive, learn, and push forward. And with me this morning to talk about the way forward is Demola Ogunbanjo. Demola is a political economist. He's also a consultant to many sectors and industries. He was the 2019 gubernatorial candidate for Ogun State. He's also a fellow of the Institute of Management Consultants and a member of the Institute of Directors. Welcome, Demola.
Thank you.
It really is a pleasure and an honor to have you here with me. I'm doing cartwheels in my head.
Thanks for having me.
So yes, we have been talking about NSAS. It seems like we keep talking about NSAS because it's a really strong defining moment in our history. But like I said, for me, it's about the way forward. So I would like you to please, in a few short words, explain to me what you believe went wrong.
Thanks again, Feran. NSAS, as a conversation, deserves all the airtime it can get.
Yes, it does.
All right, so we can't talk about it enough. Mm-hmm. Like you rightly said, we lost loved ones. Mm-hmm. But the conundrum of NSAS, the saga, to me, we had young people and old alike coming together to protest police brutality and ask for an end to it. And when the government engaged, their interest was also not limited to the people, but also extended to the police themselves. Mm-hmm. They asked for better pay for the police. They asked for better gear for the police. They asked for better working conditions for the police. And in the process of protesting police brutality, we experienced military massacre. That is an interesting paradox. But then again, so the initial request, very organic, end police brutality.
Yes.
And something interesting happened that even I didn't see coming. The federal government, the state governments, they allowed it. I didn't see that coming. They allowed the gathering, they engaged the youth. Yes, they said they didn't have leaders, but I remember there was a meeting that Davido led, met with the IGP, and I'm not sure if Minister of Communications, they allowed it. They engaged it.
So rather than allowed, they engaged.
They allowed the protest. I've been protesting since I was 16. From the day it would start, they would send soldiers to disperse us.
I see.
I was a student at the Obafemi Awolowo University, and besides the courses you would go to study in Ife, protest was a standard course for everyone.
Curriculum.
Yeah. So I understand this, very well. However, here's the point. As the people saw that the government was open to engagement, the request started to change. And the murmurs became, Buhari must go. We can't deny that began to bubble up.
True.
The moment that started, it was clear to me that the end had come. But I thought it was going to be the end of the protest, not the end of the protesters. And that's where, again, the government got it wrong. There are many ways to disperse a protest.
Okay, so I'm going to interrupt you there because whilst I agree with you, I don't want us to blame anybody. Yes, the government got it wrong, but we don't know. There are myriad of things that were playing out at that time. But what I would like to ask is, do you think the eventual outcome could have been avoided?
So, absolutely. However, I wasn't blaming the government.
Okay.
I was stating the obvious.
Okay.
They got it wrong.
How so?
They could have dispersed, to your question, the people in a different way. Water cannons, tear gas.
Okay, fair enough.
Mass arrests, a bigger police presence, military presence. Just make it difficult for people to gather in that number all over again. Dismantle their podiums. Clean out the place. You know, there are different ways to do it.
You're saying, what you're describing sounds like the recipe for a riot, though, which could have ended up in the same outcome.
The protest at the Lekki toll gate was a peaceful protest.
Yes, it was.
It could not have become a riot. Even when the military showed up in their force, the people sat on the floor.
Yes, they did. It was very peaceful.
Held the flag of Nigeria, sang the national anthem.
Yes.
And it was almost as if that was the recipe for the fire to be opened on them. There was a riot as well for the NSAS protest. That was not at Lekki Tollgate.
True.
That was
Very
across the state.
Very
a
true.
different group of people, young people. If there was anything that the NSAS protest showed us, it's the dichotomy between the youths themselves. Now, whether it was orchestrated to discredit the movement as a whole, or it was just plain the poor part of the youth population and uneducated, angry at the system, decided to go with violence as against the organized, educated, not so poor group making their demands peacefully. That we do not know. But the bottom line is that we already had a riot.
Okay. So that is very, very, very true. There was a peaceful protest, and there were also riots in different, and not just in Lagos, in other states as well. So that being said, what do you think the way forward is? What are the lessons that we've learned from this, and how do we use those lessons to actually build a better Nigeria?
So we can't move past this until we own everything about what happened. The good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yes.
The Bible says you shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free.
Yes.
In the context of this conversation, however, there's a bridge between the truth and freedom, and that's reconciliation. And it starts with every party owning their responsibility.
What is their responsibility that you think they need to own?
Number one, the government need to come out. The report is out.
Yes.
It was not set up by the UN. It was set up by the Lagos State government. All right? And that report is out. We all see it. Now we know the truth. CNN told us about a year ago, our government disagreed. Okay, here it is. So we own up to what happened. And then we begin to engage the bereaved.
What if they say that they've given them money? I'm being devil's advocate here. Because you know our government.
Money.
Okay.
For lives lost.
Exactly.
There is no compensation for a life. There's only an apology.
And even that isn't enough, but it's a start.
At least it's a start. And when I say an apology, it's words, it's the money as a palliative, not as a payment, not as a compensation, just as a palliative. It's releasing the bodies of those that are still missing.
Yeah, it's restitution.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
And then having that open conversation. When that is done and people begin to heal, then they go back into the system and fish out those responsible for that carnage and give them the right punishment within the remits of the law.
So you've talked about the government's owning their responsibility. Okay, are there other parties that need to own their
When things like
responsibility?
this happen in civilized environments, and trust me, when I say civilized environments, it's not just a manner of speaking. We are not a civilized people.
No, we are not.
I have seen it. I'm one of us. We're not as civilized as we like to give ourselves credit for. In a civilized environment, things like this happen. This panel report comes out. At some point, the governor will resign.
Very true.
But let's cap that. Let's move to the people. We have asked for change. We haven't seen it.
No, we have not.
Promises have been made. They haven't been fulfilled. Lives have been lost. They can't be raised from the dead. Unfortunately, Jesus is gone. And those of us he left the power with, we don't know how to wield it. So we can't raise the dead. Peter did with his shadow. Right? We don't know how. That said, that change we still must make happen.
Yes.
We must do one or all of the following. Get your PVC. Be ready to vote in 2023. It's the least you can do. 2, join a political party. It can be APC, it can be PDP, it can be any other one. Join a political party. One of the things that we complain about is the quality of the people that are fielded by the parties. Go into the party and be part of those who choose those people, so that the quality can change before the populace meet the people at the general elections. 3, join the executive structure of that party at whatever level, local, state, or national, even ward level. Because that's how you can then become a delegate and vote at the primaries. 4, if you are that inclined, run for office yourself. Change is a collective responsibility. And we have seen that this generation of old leaders, they're only fulfilling the scriptures. That their old shall dream dreams and their young shall see visions. We're the ones with the visions. These ones are dreaming, and you can't dream unless you're asleep. They are asleep at the helms of affairs. They're getting most of it wrong. We can't expect better from them. The world has changed beyond their grasping. The world has changed beyond my grasping.
Very true.
I don't understand a lot of things going on, and I'm a young man.
So you say.
That's what it is.
Okay, so I'm going to take you back to family.
Yes.
Because I want to connect the dots. Yeah? Every nuclear family sets their own agenda. They set their value system. I personally believe that a lot of the things that happened because we have lost our values. So if you were going to advise you and I as to how to actually begin to retrace our steps from a value proposition standpoint, what would you say?
You know, this morning I downloaded ABBA and Bonnie M because I was playing their songs in my head and I just missed them. And I thought to myself, there was a time when music was about the beat, the rhythm, the sound, love, pain, aspirations, dance. And there is this time when music is about sex and money. It was a gradual degeneration. Everything went with it. When you stop teaching history and people can't learn from their past, it means you're disconnecting a generation from their values. Our history is our identity. Our identity is the bedrock of our value system. When you stop teaching history in schools and parents are busy hustling for money, back in the day, most of what I learned that was based on morals. Yes, I observed my mother and my family members, but most of it came from school. My teachers were demigods.
Very true.
We didn't dare look at them. And now you hear all over the place, students are beating teachers, parents are going to schools to go and threaten teachers, that, all of these things. We are losing our history, our identity. What you see as the decay is only the symptoms. It comes from education, exposure. You find people named Olamide, my affluence has come. And they spell their name as Orlarmeeday. It started from when we started calling our country Niger. And nobody curtailed that. And you're wondering why. The name of this country is Nigeria. It comes from two words, Niger area. The area of the Niger. What's the Niger? A river. What's a river? The Bible speaks about a tree that is planted by the riverside. It shall bear its fruits in and out of season. That's who we are, a people planted by the riverside. We do not even understand the creed of our own country's name. We sing only the first stanza of the national anthem. We don't sing the prayer, the second stanza. We're losing ourselves. And when you lose yourself, you lose your values.
And when you lose your values, you end up with people in government who don't have values.
Here are the symptoms. The problem is not the politicians. The politicians are from amongst us. The problem is us. When I become a politician, I don't get reborn. It's still just me, and I go into political office with the values that I brought from society. Full stop.
Yeah. That is where I want us to go. You see why I said I wanted to talk about NSAS differently? Because this comes back to you and I.
Absolutely.
We are the ones raising the next generation and the next generation. So how are we going to stop history from repeating itself? We have to change the narrative.
Yes.
So to round up, can you give me in 3 sentences what you would recommend we do in our daily lives to begin to change the narrative?
Well, first off, you live by example. Practice what you preach. Young people learn more from observation than what they're being told. Second of all, teach your children history. If the schools won't teach them, you teach them. Third, introduce them to God. But because you have introduced them to God, don't forget to introduce them to Obatala or Romeo.
How so? You will confuse some people.
It's part of their history. It's a part of their culture. The Yoruba pantheon, if you study it, you'll find it doesn't negate spirituality. As a matter of fact, it's traditional spirituality. And it speaks to Eledumare. That is Olodu Tomoare. That is the one with the code of creation. And it speaks to Olua and it speaks to Olofi. Olofi is the intermediary.
I wish I could translate this for non-Yoruba people. Because this is deep.
Well, it's scriptures.
Okay,
scriptures are away, as brought to us by Oromila.
Okay, so let me quickly recap. First, you said...
Lead by example, practice what you preach.
Lead by example, practice what you preach.
Yes.
2,
teach your children what the school system will not teach them.
Teach our history. Wherever you are in the world, teach our history. 3,
introduce them to the capital G God, the creator of all things, the Almighty. And don't forget to teach them as well about the small G gods.
Demola, it has been a pleasure.
Thank you.
It has been an absolute honor. I'm so delighted to have you.
Thank you, Feran. It's my pleasure for being here.
Thank you so much for being here today. It's been very short, but very enlightening. And I really, really hope that as a people, as a nation, we begin to understand who we are and what we carry, because that is the only way to change the narrative. So, thank you so much for watching. Stay with us for a few more seconds whilst John, Helen, and myself very quickly round up the show. Thank you.